If I had $1 for every time a student asked to play with my crutches, I would be a millionaire. If I had $1 for every time a student asked about my disability, I'd be dirt poor. When I was born, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And let me just say, thank God for Breaking Bad. That was the first time that I had seen a character that I could relate to and that also looked like myself. I'm here today to talk about who I am, how my disability has impacted me growing up, and why it's important to raise awareness of disability in the classroom. Now, for the average elementary and middle school student, recess is their most favorite part of the day. Football, basketball, soccer, what's not to love? Every day I would see my classmates come back into the classroom with blood stains or grass stains on their knees, but you didn't see any red or green on these knees. Now, one of my favorite activities in middle school was PE, and in PE, I loved to play kickball. And it was not because I kicked the ball very hard, it was because I always had a friend that would run the bases for me. And thankfully, I had some pretty fast friends. And that showed that my friends were willing to accept me and to include me into everything that they were doing, and I always appreciated them for that. As I transitioned into high school, that's where I found my love of wheelchair basketball. Wheelchair basketball allowed the conversation of disability to be talked about on a bigger scale. I also had the opportunity at one point to have a wheelchair basketball game and play against my teachers. While I don't remember the score, I do remember the noise that the students made and the competition or lack thereof of the teachers, and also just the educational value that it brought. Now, sticking with my school, for the past 3 years, I've been a substitute teacher. And while I've interacted with many students throughout my 3 years, one memory in particular sticks out the most. And it was an early morning, middle school morning meeting where I came out and I asked the middle school, how many of you have ever wanted to know about my disability but were just afraid to ask? And almost about half of them, their hands were raised. And this came from a conversation that I had with a student 2 weeks prior when he had asked, Mr. Davis, how come you use crutches to walk? And I thought to myself, what courage and bravery that student had to ask me that question. And I also realized how many more students like him are curious about my disability but are just too afraid to ask. And so, going back to the morning meeting, I began to talk to them about my disability, and as I began to talk, I saw their faces go from intrigue to understanding. And so, in my experience growing up with a disability, I've learned that we all have disabilities, no matter if it's physical or not. We all suffer from depression, anxiety, bipolar. Each one of us has a disability. It's just not as apparent as a physical one. So my call to action to you today is this. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to have conversations in the classroom or outside about disabilities and getting to know one another's. After this, I'll be in the lobby. We can play some basketball, or you can ask me a question.